Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
Alex Jackson, a 20-year-old college student at the University of Iowa, made a harrowing 911 call on Tuesday, June 15, 2021, from inside his parents' home in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. The call came in at 8:23 in the morning. It sounded as if Alex was trying to put his thoughts together while enduring great pain.
Lynn County Sheriff, where is your emergency?
Someone broke into our house. Our address is 4414 Oak Leaf Court, Northeast. I've been shot. My other family member's been shot. I need help immediately.
He told the operator that both he and his father had been shot. They were the victims of a home invasion.
I've been shot in the foot.
Okay, sir, stay on the line. Stick with me. They should be answering. Give them the address right away.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
4414 Oak Leaf Court, Northeast.
Okay, what's going on?
Someone broke in.
Okay.
I've been shot.
You've been shot?
My dad's been shot.
Okay, hold on just a second. Are they still there?
No, they left.
They left? Did they come inside the house?
Yeah.
Okay, where were you shot at?
Downstairs.
No, on your body. On your body, where have you been shot?
Foot.
He said he had been shot in the foot while attempting to wrestle away the weapon from the intruder. The dispatcher instructed him to put a tourniquet on his foot to help stop the bleeding. The phone cut in and out as Alex gasped in pain. He told her a masked man, wearing all black clothes and green shoes, had entered their home through the back door. He said that both his sister Sabrina and their mother Melissa were in the house as well. He believed they were still in their bedrooms. As the dispatcher continued to ask questions, the situation began to get more muddled. Alex told her that there was a gun on the floor, the family's gun. The intruder had shot him and his father with it. When asked if he knew who would do something like this, Alex replied no. When police arrived at the scene, they were instructed to enter the home through the back door. But what they discovered was a tragedy far different from what was described on the phone. Officers started talking to Alex and then began yelling for Sabrina and Melissa to confirm that they were not harmed. As they started to clear the rooms one by one, looking for signs of the intruder and the rest of Alex's family, they began to find bodies. 3 people had been shot dead inside the house. "We got a triple homicide," one officer muttered to himself, caught on his body camera. This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 234. Officers helped Alex Jackson outside to waiting first responders. He hobbled out of the house, a tourniquet still tied to his foot. They found the .22 caliber rifle Alex said was used in the shooting. The bodies of 61-year-old Jan, 68-year-old Melissa, and 19-year-old Sabrina were all found in various rooms of the home. An officer looking through the crime scene noted that 2 had been shot in the head, while the other had multiple gunshot wounds in their chest and neck. It didn't take long for the responding officers to begin questioning the scene. If 3 people were dead in a home invasion, how did Alex manage to get away? How did he manage to be spared in the massacre? On their body camera footage, several officers indicated to each other that they needed to be careful with Alex, suggesting that he could have been behind the attacks. They checked him for any weapons before transporting him to a nearby hospital to get treatment for his foot. Investigators Matthew Denlinger and Sarah Lacina from the Cedar Rapids Police Department met him there. In the emergency room, Alex showed a small range of emotion, even joking around with an officer in the room who was taking photos of his wounds. Investigators learned from Alex that there was a Ring camera system on the home, video they hoped would show the intruder fleeing the scene. Nurses zoomed in and out of the room as Alex recalled for investigators what happened. He said he was awakened by gunshots ringing throughout the home. The night before, he had chosen to sleep in the enclosed back porch of the house. He said the weather had been good, and this was something he did often. He described to them hearing a gunshot and seeing the intruder tussling with his father before he decided to jump in to help, getting into an altercation with the gunman. He described rushing towards the gunman and grabbing the weapon. A fight then ensued. He recalled the gunman yelling, "Fuck you," to him as the fight dragged on. He said at no point did he ever see his sister or mother. As he wrestled away the rifle, the gunman shot him in the foot. It was their family's gun, one they had purchased for not only leisure shooting at the gun range, but also for their own protection, for instances like this. And now it had been turned against them. He explained that he and his father had just cleaned the gun the night before. They had planned to go shooting together the following day, since both Alex and Sabrina were on their summer break from college. When asked how he felt about his family and what their relationship was like, Alex said, "I love my family." Investigators Denlinger and Lacina both left the room for a time so that nursing staff could assess Alex's gunshot wound, take x-rays, and prepare a treatment plan for his foot. When they returned, they continued with their questioning, but Alex was struggling to answer their more detailed questions. Officer Denlinger told him that while he was being treated by the medical staff, they had time to check in with the officers who were analyzing the crime scene back at the family's home. There was one problem with the story Alex was telling. There was no evidence showing an intruder had been in the home that morning. There was no sign of forced entry, and no sign that anyone other than Melissa, Jan, Sabrina, and Alex had been inside before the shootings. No signs of a tussle or furniture being out of place. Despite that, Alex maintained that an intruder had broken in. 3.5 hours into the interview, in which Alex was laying in an emergency room bed, he shed more light on the relationship he had with his father. He revealed that his dad had told him he needed to find a job soon. He said he felt that there was an implication that if he couldn't find a job, he would be forced out of the family home. But he reiterated, "It wasn't me," during the interview. Investigators continued to push him, painting a story that Alex was behind the shooting and revealing that his sister had been shot in her sleep. They told him that the security cameras at the home looked like they had been tampered with, although this would later be disputed in court. At one point, investigator Denlinger said, "The reason that this is so clear on what happened is you didn't think it through that well." But Alex continued to maintain his story. The intruder was at large, and yet everyone was focusing on him instead. Investigators asked if there was any conflict or any strife between the siblings or parents. Alex explained that during his second year of college, while majoring in business, his grades had started to slip. Investigator Denlinger made the connection that Alex's sister Sabrina was an overachiever who excelled at her classes, while Alex was struggling. The investigators began to lean in on the lost college student narrative, telling Alex that they understood how his parents' expectations could weigh heavily on him. Despite the 6+ hour interview, Alex's story remained unchanged. After he received treatment for his foot, however, he was arrested on 3 counts of first-degree murder for the deaths of his parents and sister. His bond was set at $3 million. At the time of the shootings, records indicated that the Jackson family had resided in the home for a decade, having moved from Oregon in 2011. Sabrina was just 19 and had graduated high school in 2020. Both siblings were in band together in high school. Alex played the flute while Sabrina played the oboe. During that time, Sabrina was also a member of the speech team and enjoyed writing. Her participation in activities and clubs continued as she started at the University of Iowa, becoming involved in a student democratic organization on campus. She even got the chance to introduce then presidential candidate Andrew Yang to speak at the university. At home with their parents Jan and Melissa, their lives involved playing board games and watching movies together. In fact, the night before the killings, the family had been watching a movie. Alex was a fan of playing video games with friends online. He had also become a decorated Eagle Scout, a goal the whole family helped him achieve. Their father, Jan Jackson, was a retired IT manager, and their mother, Melissa, had been a photographer before she became a homemaker. They were, by all accounts, pretty well off and wanted to make sure their kids had the best futures possible. They were said to be good neighbors, active in their community, and beloved by friends. The community reeled from the news, and local vigils were held at the high school both Sabrina and Alex had attended. She was a wonderful person, a friend of Sabrina's told the local paper, The Gazette. She was kind and sweet and so much fun. Another fellow student who knew both Alex and Sabrina couldn't believe that Alex was being charged with the murders. "This is completely out of Alex's character," he told the Gazette. "I can't imagine him doing this. We were playing Halo Reach 12 hours before everything happened. He was completely normal, and it wasn't any different than I ever remembered him. Nothing out of character, really." Despite the mounted speculation surrounding the incident, Alex pleaded not guilty to all 3 counts of first-degree murder. Autopsies revealed that each member of his family had been shot several times, some of which were at close range. His mother, Melissa, had been found on the floor of the primary bedroom. She had suffered a gunshot wound to her left eye, which left soot, an indication that the gun was mere inches away from her face. Another gunshot wound was found on her right temple. Both shots had entered her brain. Jan Jackson had been discovered at the bottom of the stairs. He sustained 5 gunshot wounds to his chest, neck, and back. He also had a blunt force injury to both his face and lower lip, likely a result of falling after being shot. 19-year-old Sabrina had 2 wounds, one to her left eye, the other in her torso. Alex and his legal team attempted to block prosecutors from accessing medical records and from using the statements he provided to first responders and investigators while in the emergency room. The trial, which was initially set for 2022, experienced numerous delays. According to the Gazette, Alex also requested that the entire trial be moved out of Lynn County, claiming that the media coverage on the case had been pervasive and inflammatory, which he feared could tarnish a fair jury pool. The judge denied his request. And so on January 13th, 2023, the trial was finally underway. The prosecution argued that Alex was the killer and that there was no intruder. The opening statements were given by Assistant Lynn County Attorney Jordan Scheer.
Alexander Jackson, I want you to think that he had the perfect family life. That his mother, Melissa, his father, Jan, his sister, Sabrina, they all got along great. They had family dinners. They played board games. It was perfect. On the Eagle Scout badge, there are 2 stars. Those stars stand for truth and knowledge. The evidence is going to show you what the truth is about this family dynamics. And it's not what Mr. Jackson claimed it to be.
He explained that the information from the 911 call that officers received from dispatch did not match the scene they arrived to. In fact, what they thought was a violent home invasion call didn't seem to have any evidence of forced entry at all.
There is no signs of forced entry. There is no signs of a struggle. There are no signs of any furniture, objects moved. There's no signs of anything taken.
He said red flags began to pop up for investigators almost immediately. When questioned by responding officers, Alex could only provide very basic information about the killer. He eventually said it was a black man in black clothes and green shoes, but that was all.
See the defendant riding in the ambulance, taken to the hospital for treatment, taken to the Cedar Rapids Police Department, and what he said had happened. You see his tone, his body language, and how concern he had or showed or remorse for the loss of his family. And all the defendant would say is, I didn't do this, that it was some intruder, some black man wearing all black and green shoes.
The prosecution argued that Alex had killed all 3 members of his family and then turned the gun on himself to make it look like a home invasion, painting a heroic story of how he sustained the injury while attempting to wrestle the weapon away from the attacker.
What you will continue to hear is that there is no evidence to show that anyone else was there except for the defendant. That the officers canvassed the neighborhood looking for security footage where they received from neighbors named Bao Li Yang and his daughter Lydia Yang. How from their desk camera from that day, you see nobody entering or leaving the home. In fact, they even pulled the Ring doorbell cameras from the Jacksons' home, from the front of the house, and more importantly, from the back of the house, where again you see no one coming and going to support that this phantom ever existed.
He told the jury that after seeing all the evidence, they will conclude that one person was responsible.
That the person responsible for the deaths of Sabrina Jackson, Jan Jackson, Melissa Jackson, was caused by their own family member, the defendant, when he shot and killed them with that .22 Browning rifle. And not just once for each one, multiple times. Taking the time to load this gun, more than 11 bullets.
When the defense presented their opening statements by attorney Lindsay Garner, they painted a much different picture. She alleged that Alex was in such shock from the home invasion and from seeing his father dead on the floor that his recollection was affected. She also said Alex was questioned by investigators while under the influence of fentanyl, as he was in the hospital getting treated for his injured foot. She argued that police wasted no time in framing him as the killer, despite Alex's story being consistent the entire time.
And although they interrogated him for over 7 hours, it took about 35 minutes before they decided that Alexander Jackson was their suspect. And Officer Matt Denlinger and Sarah Lucina had never even stepped foot on the crime scene. You'll see in those 7.5 hours that Alexander Jackson never wavered in telling officers what happened to him that morning. He told them over 13 different ways that it was not him. But charging Alex was the easiest route for officers.
She explained that the night before the intruder broke in and shot and killed the family, they were all having a good time together, eating dinner and watching a movie. At one point, Alex and his father made plans to visit the shooting range the next day, and Alex retrieved the rifle from his room so they could clean the gun. She said Alex then played video games afterwards to end the night, and then decided to sleep on the enclosed porch of the family home, which was a regular occurrence for him. She said it was lucky for Alex that he chose to sleep on the porch that night, because he would be woken up by gunshots the next morning, halfway across the home from the gunman. She described how Alex ran towards the sounds of the shots, only to find an intruder standing over his father, who had been shot. She said Alex made heroic efforts to protect and defend his family.
You'll hear his first instinct was to run towards that man, pushing him, trying to get this gun away from him. But the man wouldn't let go of the gun. And during this struggle and this incident, Alex is shot one time into his foot, causing it to immediately shoot out blood. Alex gets a hold of the gun, and the man runs back out the door, leaving the door open.
When police arrived and loaded him into the ambulance, she said Alex was immediately given fentanyl for the pain and burst into tears, asking first responders if his dad was okay. She blasted the investigators who met Alex at the hospital and their questioning of him for several hours.
Alex freely speaks with officers. And as I said, only 35 minutes into that interview, they begin directing their questions towards Alex as though he's the suspect in killing his family. They ask him, do they ever do anything to upset you? You're going to hear that for 6 more hours, officers go on this fishing expedition with Alex, accusing him of killing his mother and his father and his sister. While on fentanyl, while he's bleeding, while he had just been shot and saw his father lying in blood, you will hear officers attempt to catch Alex alive for the next 6 hours. Officers will accuse Alex of having mental health issues. They'll tell him he needs to go to a mental ward. They tell him he needs a social worker without any proof of that. You'll hear officers begin talking about his home life, starting with accusing him of dropping out of college. Officers aren't thinking that it's June 15th. Alex is at home that day because it's summer break and he's not in college at the time. You'll even hear officers continually put Alex down about his struggles in school, going so far as to saying a guy with no job and no girlfriend should have all the time in the world to pass classes with a B. At this time, students everywhere were struggling with school, online schooling, because it was during and after COVID. You'll then hear officers begin to tell Alex how his dad's unhappy with him and how his grades aren't that great and they don't have the best of relationships. And then they use the interrogation tactic of telling Alex that his sister is his parents' favorite child. At one point, you'll even hear officers ask him his sister's password to her phone, suggesting, is it dad's favorite number 1? But you'll hear Alex tell officers how his dad's proud of him, how his parents didn't have a favorite, and that they loved them both equally.
Despite investigators telling Alex in that interview that he had told the 911 dispatcher that his mother and sister had been shot too, Alex denied this and insisted he didn't know of their conditions, only that his father had been shot. This was confirmed by listening to the 911 call, Garner said.
You'll hear that officers took multiple swabs from Alex, multiple swabs from areas around his body, that they tested different pieces of clothing that he had on. And officers found no other blood on Alex except from his own body. You'll hear that officers found 2 separate prints on that rifle that was on the scene. One belonging to Alex, the other print belonging to an unidentified person. You will also hear that none of the victim's blood was found on Alex, no matter how close officers claim that he was to the victims when they were shot. You'll also hear that none of the victims' blood was found on the gun either. In fact, you're going to hear that no blood and no DNA was found on that gun or the muzzle of that gun, despite Alex telling them that blood shot out of his foot when he was shot, which makes it very difficult to not find blood on this gun.
Garner argued that the police didn't do their job properly and never even looked for another suspect or tested the shell casings for DNA. She said police tried to push Alex about why his phone indicated he was using it at 6 a.m. the morning of the shooting, despite his claims that he woke up at 8 to the gunshots. She explained that he was Googling information about a Star Wars movie, not necessarily the search history of a soon-to-be killer. Additionally, Garner pointed out that the police dog that was initially at the scene didn't search the entire property for the intruder, and that the family's security cameras only showed selected sections of the yard and not the entire property. Despite investigators suggesting that Alex could have disabled or tampered with the security cameras, Garner told the jury that the cameras were wireless and battery-operated, and Alex's fingerprints were not on them.
This was a home invasion with an unknown motive. An intruder who escaped out the back door and left it open. The evidence will show that the police made very little to no effort in this investigation. Alexander Jackson was the fourth victim in this case. There's no doubt this is a tragedy, no doubt at all. Do not compound this tragedy by convicting Alexander Jackson of murder.
The first witnesses called to the stand were the Jackson family's neighbors. In 2021, Bao Li Yang and his daughter, Lydia Yang, both lived across the cul-de-sac. They said their interactions with the family were limited but pleasant. Bao Li said Sabrina was a frequent visitor to the Yang home, and she often helped them while they were on vacation by dog-sitting. Often, when Sabrina would be busy with school, Alex, too, would help dog-sit. Melissa Jackson was often in the front yard and tended to a very well-maintained garden. Alex mowed the lawn at least once a week, and Sabrina was seen almost every day while on her run through the neighborhood. On the morning of the shooting, Bao Li said nothing was out of the ordinary in their shared cul-de-sac. In fact, it wasn't until the ambulances arrived at the Jackson home that he even realized that something was very wrong. Edwin Downey was another neighbor who was called to the stand. His wife and Melissa were walking partners, often going on afternoon walks together. He was asked if anything in the days leading up to the shooting was out of the ordinary. He replied that Jan Jackson had grown quiet in the week before he was killed.
I was on my morning walk, and most mornings when I'd leave my driveway, I'd take a right, which went right to the end of the street by where the Jacksons live. And, over the months, I would occasionally see Jan out there because he would let his dog out. He would let his dog out to do his business, and Jan would stand on the front porch, and we would acknowledge each other and exchange pleasantries. But that morning, I took another right along the side of their house, and as I was approaching their house, I saw Jan come out, walking down this little short driveway with a bag to put in one of the bins. And I don't recall exactly, but I either said hi or was getting ready to say hi or wave at him. But he literally stared at me for 1 second and just turned around, walked right back in the house.
Why did you find that was strange or odd?
Because we had always exchanged pleasantries before.
He said he found it odd enough to tell his wife when he got home.
That Saturday before, whatever that day it was, I was walking. It was probably later in the morning because I wasn't working. And I was on the other side of the neighborhood. And here comes Jan and Melissa, and I believe they had their dog Hero with them. And they were coming right at me. And previous to that, maybe the day before, my wife had told me that Melissa had told her, we were downsizing because we were preparing to move in a few months, and we had some fencing we were going to get rid of. And Melissa had indicated an interest in it. So they came from one direction, I came from the other direction, and we stopped literally 3 feet apart. And I said, hey, said hi, and you're going to come get the fencing. And as I recall it, Melissa looked at me, then she looked at Jan and looked back at me, and she goes, well, I think so, we'll let you know. But the unusual part was Jan was 3 feet away from me, and I don't recall him saying a single word, didn't acknowledge me at all. And I thought that was unusual.
On the morning of the shooting, he said he didn't recall anything out of the ordinary in the neighborhood. That was until all hell broke loose. Officer Kurt Buckles, along with multiple other officers who had responded to the scene of the shooting, took the stand as well. Officer Buckles was the canine officer and was accompanied by his dog, Corsa. He testified that originally, when he got the call from dispatch, he was skeptical of the situation because the neighborhood where the Jacksons lived had recently been the source of a swatting call. Swatting calls are prank calls typically made to local police with fake claims of shootings, attacks, and kidnappings, with the intention of drawing large swarms of police officers and first responders to a location. When Officer Buckles and Corsa arrived, the neighborhood seemed normal, and nothing appeared out of place. As officers confirmed that Alex had been shot in the foot and that multiple deaths had occurred, Officer Buckles took Corsa through the home, but the dog never alerted to anything out of the ordinary. Her panting could be heard over police body camera footage as she searched the property. Corsa was trained to track suspects who had fled scenes of burglaries or home invasions, but at the Jackson home, she wasn't picking up anything. On cross-examination, Alex's attorneys attempted to discredit Corsa's credentials and even criticized the length of the search. Corey Barber was another officer with the Cedar Rapids Police Department. He arrived at the home and immediately went to the front door, believing that the call could be another swatting call, another fake report. When he eventually made his way inside, he noted that there was no sign of forced entry, and in fact, the home appeared to be very well kept. He helped search through the house, finding each body in various rooms, each time muttering the word fuck under his breath as he saw the conditions of each victim. We got a triple homicide, he said, after discovering the final body, Melissa's body, in the primary bedroom. He said he saw construction workers nearby, and he went over and asked them if they had seen anyone running through the neighborhood.
And any evidence or any indication that anybody saw anybody running through this area?
No, they said they'd been there since 8 a.m. and that they had not seen anybody run through there.
A former crime scene detective with the Cedar Rapids Police Department, Brandon Bosenberg, testified that he saw no signs of forced entry anywhere in the house, not on any of the doors or windows. He also investigated the .22 caliber rifle that was believed to be the weapon used in the shooting. It was owned by the Jackson family, and the case for the gun had been discovered under Alex's bed. He testified that 2 palm prints on the weapon were matched to Alex, and that they were of good quality. He told the jury that the placement of the palm prints indicated that the muzzle of the weapon had been pointed down to the floor. He elaborated that had there been a struggle over the gun, the palm prints would have been smudged and or indistinguishable. He was asked about a circular pattern around the gunshot wound on Alex's foot. He agreed that it could be from the barrel of the gun. He added that the bloody footprints in the home belonged to Alex, but only appeared in the hallway leading to his bedroom. No footprints were found near Melissa's room or Sabrina's. He noted that numerous other guns were found around the home, specifically in the primary bedroom, as well as a safe in the basement. On cross-examination, he was questioned about why a third palm print found on the gun didn't return a match to anyone.
It is identifiable, right? We did not identify it.
As of yet, right?
The potential exists to have it identified, but it hasn't been.
And what database did you submit this latent print number 3?
That would have been submitted through the Iowa database and the FBI database.
Are you sure you submitted it through the FBI database?
Upon reviewing my reports, I did not mention that it was submitted through the FBI database. I know it was submitted through the Iowa database.
Okay. And the Iowa database would be a considerably smaller database, would it not?
Yes.
And there's enough detail in this palm print that you can exclude people as being the person who had this palm print, right?
I would say, yeah, there would exist enough detail to do an exclusion.
How many points of identification could you identify on this palm print?
If I remember, it was close to the borderline for identification, but I think it was around 8 to 10 maybe.
All right. Maybe 10, maybe more than 10?
Potentially. I don't know off the top of my head.
And it's so identifiable that you entered it into the database twice, right?
I don't know if I would use the word so identifiable that I entered it twice. I entered it twice because the first time didn't result in anything. So I re-entered it. Sometimes your orientation on entry might have an effect. I don't know for sure, but so I entered it twice, yes.
He was asked if that print could belong to the intruder.
I guess insinuating that an intruder existed, it's hard to say. I don't have any person I can attribute that print to at this moment in time.
So it could belong to the intruder.
I don't know if I can say I don't know who it belongs to.
Okay. All right. And when I asked you in deposition whether you could rule out that there was an intruder in this case, you said, no, you could not. Right?
I would have to review my deposition, but I probably said something like that, yes.
I said, do you have an opinion as to whether or not there was an intruder in this house? I'm going to adjust my microphone. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not there was an intruder in this house, or whether or not it was Mr. Jackson who killed his family? Your answer was no.
He agreed he did say that in his deposition. The attorney also asked him if he remembers stating in his deposition that he didn't have an opinion on whether or not Alex's injury to his foot was self-inflicted.
That is correct.
And that's the answer you gave us under oath back on August 10th of 2022.
Yes.
The full interview tapes, all 6+ hours, were played in court along with the security camera footage from various homes in the neighborhood, which all indicated nothing out of the ordinary. Officer Matthew Denlinger took the stand and defended his questioning tactics in the hours after the shooting, while at the hospital with Alex. He testified that although Alex was cordial during their interview, his story just didn't add up. One thing was when Alex claimed he had been sleeping, but his data from his phone showed otherwise.
Specifically, what time did you find activity?
So in between 6 and 7 o'clock, there were several things on his phone. There was, maybe around 6:25, there was some activity on an app I believe it's called iFunny, which is just some short little videos. Around 6:53, I believe there's another documented activity, which is, someone Googling who played the Emperor and Empire Strikes Back or something similar to that.
So you found activity on a phone that was where the defendant stated it was in his bedroom, correct?
That's correct.
Even though the defendant told you he was sleeping on the porch.
Right.
He testified that there were 4 Ring cameras at the Jackson home, and footage from those was shown to the jury.
And when you reviewed all of those clips from that camera view, did you ever see an individual running from the Jackson's home?
No.
Did you ever see a person running wearing black clothing and green shoes?
No.
Did you ever see a person running going towards Oakleaf Court traveling on Scarlet Road?
No one matching that description, no.
So you never saw anybody that matched the description of this alleged intruder?
Correct.
When it was their turn to call witnesses, the defense called Kyle Hayen, a former canine unit expert. He testified that dogs cannot track human scent while breathing or panting heavily, something that the police body camera video indicated Corsa was doing on that day. He also took aim at the time allotted for Corsa to search the area. Despite this, Hayen said his last contract with the canine unit was in 2003, and he was not a part of any canine organization because he claimed they were flawed. Representatives from Alex's Eagle Scout tribe testified and said Alex was mild-mannered during their work together in the group. They also said there was no indication of any family trouble at home, despite not having seen him in several years. One of Alex's friends from Scout said Alex's mom, Melissa, would always help out at their Scout meetings.
Did you ever see Alex and his mother interact?
A few times at the Scout meetings.
What did you observe about their relationship?
Always kind and respectful. Never really raised his voice at his mom. There were some smart aleck remarks, but I can't pinpoint an exact phrase.
But for the most part, respectful?
Yeah.
Did you ever see him be unruly to his mother?
No.
Ever mean to his mother?
Nope.
Did you ever notice him being disrespectful to his father?
No.
Closing arguments were held on the seventh day of the trial. Prosecutor Monica Slaughter walked the jury through what the prosecution says happened on the morning of June 15th, 2021.
And it was very obvious from the evidence that as Jan Jackson left his office the morning of June 15th, leaving behind his cup of coffee and his half-eaten muffin to come downstairs, that the defendant was perched up behind that couch and started shooting his father. One shot to the neck area, one shot to the right chest, one shot to the left temple. You saw one shot, which was evidence tent 17, was a missed bullet hole. You saw minimal blood spatter at the bottom of the stairs. And then Jan Jackson fell. He fell face first into the carpet, right at the base of those stairs. And then the defendant, for good measure, stood over him and put 2 more bullets in the back of his head.
She then described what happened to Sabrina.
The initial shell casing that was found in Sabrina Jackson's room was right by the door. In order for that bullet to travel the path that it took into her left rib, out of her right-ish abdomen area, and into the arm, she had to have been laying in a position that was visible and exposed to the defendant when he shot her from that doorway. Dr. Cruz testified that though that shot could have killed her, it's very possible that she would have been able to roll over after that initial shot. And that's the exact position that her body was found in, ladies and gentlemen. After being shot through the rib and out of the abdomen and back into the arm, she rolled over into a fetal position. And the defendant got closer and shot her in the eye.
Then she moved on to Melissa. She said there was a group of shell casings found right when you walk into Melissa and Jan's bedroom. She described how Alex killed his mother.
What we saw in that master bedroom is that 3 shots were fired at Melissa Jackson as she laid in that bed. One of them grazed her scalp, likely the injury that caused the blood found on the bed. And then she rolled out of the bed. One more shot from a distance to her temple, her right temple. And then a final shot, point blank, into her left eye. And you saw evidence in that case or in that shooting of that very close, that stippling, as Dr. Cruz referred to it, and as that soot and that burn powder that had burned into her skin, causing that discoloration. Inches away from his mother when he shot her in the face.
She said one of the biggest things pointing to Alex as the killer was the fact that at no point during the 911 call did he ever call out to his mother and sister to check to see if they were okay.
Sabrina, I've been shot. Dad's been shot. Are you okay? Nothing. And the reason the defendant isn't calling out to his sister is because he knows that she's dead. He doesn't call out to his mom. Mom, I've been shot. Mom, are you okay? Mom, help me. Check on Dad. Because he knows his mother is also dead.
She pointed out that the .22 caliber rifle was a unique gun, that even investigators had to watch a YouTube video on how to load it, making it an incredible coincidence if a home intruder was able to figure it out.
The DNA swabs taken from that firearm were processed by the DCI lab. Not only did they not return any DNA profiles for an unknown person, unknown intruder, they didn't return profiles for the defendant either. No DNA from this gun. And the investigators, based on the lack of DNA from the specific 5 places that were guaranteed to have been touched, made the decision not to send the other swabs in.
She told the jury that the defendant's story does not make sense, that it is unreasonable to believe it. Defense attorney Tyler Johnston told the jury that the Jacksons were a normal, happy, close-knit family, and that Alex was a 4th victim in the situation. He showed photographs of the family together and said photos like this were all over the walls of the family home.
And as you listen to Ms. Slaughter this morning, the one thing that she didn't say is why. Why would Alexander Jackson kill his family? It makes no sense. This was a normal family. This was a happy family. There's simply no motive for Alex to do this.
He said Alex has no history of violence, no history of mental illness, and had never been in trouble before.
When you look at this neighborhood and you think, as we heard from police officers, not a lot goes wrong in this neighborhood. When you look at this neighborhood, if someone was going to do a home invasion, this would be the perfect neighborhood for it. It's affluent. Those are affluent homes. They're large. They're spaced out. The homes are spaced out away from each other. They're surrounded by wooded areas, and they're secluded, relatively secluded for an urban area. And as we saw, particularly in the Jackson home, the dog did not bark when the police arrived. I think on one of those cameras, you heard the dog go, woof, just one time. If you listen carefully, you can hear it. But I don't know about you, my dog goes crazy when anybody comes anywhere near the house. There were no cars in the driveway, and there were multiple guns in this home. Now, we don't know what the intruder's intent was or why they were there. May not ever know. But it could have been because there were firearms in this home. There was a case years and years ago, which was the subject of a famous novel in Cold Blood, where a home was invaded in Holcomb, Kansas, because of a rumor that the guy kept $10,000 in his safe.
He pointed out that 4 shell casings were found by the back door. He said it wouldn't make sense for Alex to have gone over there to shoot his father. It makes more sense that an intruder came in through the back door. Jan came down the stairs, and the intruder shot him. He said the interview with Alex at the hospital, after he had been dosed with fentanyl, was unfair, and he categorized it as taking advantage of Alex. He also told the jury that the canine search was rushed, despite Alex insisting over the course of several hours that an intruder and killer was on the loose. On January 25, 2023, after 6 hours of deliberations, Alex Jackson was found guilty of all 3 counts of first-degree murder. As a result, he would be getting 3 mandatory life sentences without the possibility of parole. He was also ordered to pay restitution that would go to surviving family members. According to the Gazette, before the trial, he had stood to inherit $2 million from his family's estate. He showed no emotion when the verdict was read. A statement on behalf of the Jackson family was released following the verdict, written by Jan Jackson's niece. Alex wanted the world to think he was a victim of this horrendous crime, she said. But we know that is not the case, and now everyone knows the truth of what happened that day. Alex murdered 3 members of our family, and that pain will never go away. Alex's defense team has said they plan to appeal the verdict. It's very disappointing, they said. Alex is 22 years old and is going to spend the rest of his life in prison for a crime that he didn't commit. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this case. You can let me know by finding me on Twitter at CourtJunkiePod, by joining the conversation on Instagram at CourtJunkie, or by emailing me at podcast@courtjunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Law and Crime staff. If you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads, hear additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, or get access to our weekly court case newsletter, check out our Patreon options by going to courtjunkie.com/support. And don't forget to check out our sister podcast, Civil. The latest episode was released this past week, and it covers the downfall of Bill Cosby, which may have been solidified by a civil lawsuit. And lastly, as many of you know, I am currently pregnant with my 2nd child, and I am in my 9th month as I am recording this. I'm planning on working right up until the baby comes, but just in case there are any surprises, I will of course have someone update this feed. While I'm out on a rather short maternity leave, one of my writers and colleagues, Matt Stroud, will be covering for me. I'll have new episodes that will be released in May, but only every other week, and they will be reported by Matt. For the other weeks, we will be re-releasing some older episodes just so you have something in the feed to listen to. Then in June, we will be back to brand new weekly episodes. Matt will likely still be recording then, but I'm hoping to be back in mid-June. Thank you all for your patience, and hopefully I still have a few more weeks to go. But like I said, I will keep you all updated. Thanks again for listening and for all of your support. Until next time.